I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And I do have a piece of paper and a pen to take some notes. Um, and I think that people know that we're going to kind of go through my human design profile so they can get an idea of what it's like to have the experience of someone share with you what your human design is. And I just want to say as we start, like, I I know a fraction of what there is to know about human design. Um, what I learned years ago was just simply my type and then what my strategy was. And once I learned my type and my strategy, I kind of just ran with that. So even kind of feeling like I don't know a lot, um, in the moments in my life where I had to make major decisions or when things started to shift or I wasn't quite sure, uh, what I was doing, I would default to my human design strategy. And in many ways, I believe it has gotten me to where I am at this point, even though I don't really know how I believe that.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, are you ready?
Already.
All right, first, I just have to say how grateful I am to be here. Thank you for having me on and to be able to share one of my greatest passions, which is human design. So, thank you, Jeannie. And I thank everybody who's out there, maybe watching. Okay, so, and I don't know what everybody else knows about human design and whether they've ever had their own reading. So I'm going to start with a teeny blurb of what human design is, and then we'll go into your design. There's so much to talk about regarding someone's design. So since we've got a limited amount of time, I'm going to talk about like the foundational parts of your design, and then we could always do more after the fact.
Okay.
So human design is a blueprint of your energy. It is how you're uniquely designed to flow through the world, interact with other people, and how to make decisions. It's a combination of ancient wisdom, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, the seven chakra system, and astrology, along with modern science, quantum physics, and genetics. It's quite a combination. You can think of it as a map to your true self. Without conditioning, before the conditioning came upon you, before societal expectations, from the minute we're born right up until now, we've been conditioned. So just like in Ayurveda, Kundalini, even Enneagram, all of those systems are about deconditioning and remembering and being and embodying the truth of who you really are. In human design, it's called getting to your true self versus some other word like the divine, infinite intelligence, infinite spirit, whatever word resonates with you. And once you learn your design, instead of saying you're going to practice your design, they use the word experiment. So when I go through your design, after someone finds out their design, they're going to you're meant to take it out into the world and experiment because it does take practice, just like Ayurveda does and Kundalini does. Everything takes practice. But I kind of like that human design came up with experiment. You're going out and experimenting. Okay. And if you have any questions along the way, please ask because I'll just keep going.
I no doubt will.
Okay. Okay. And as with the other systems that we're all familiar with, human design is not meant to box you in further. It's not meant to limit you in any way. It's meant to free you, right? The more awareness we have about our nature, about our tendencies, obviously, the more powerful. Now, as with you, we all may have experienced when we learned our Enneagram or when we learned our dosha constitution, we may have said, damn, I don't want to be that. That's not what I thought I was. The mind pops in and does its thing. Same with human design. There are five energy types, and each design is unique. Each one is a gift. Each one is very special. And I just want to make it clear, everybody's design is potent, powerful, important, and magical. And you've got superpowers within that design. And so even if when I finish, describing your design, people are going to be like, well, I want to be that, and then if they find out they aren't that, they're like, damn, I'm falling short, or why do I have? I want to assure everybody every design is spectacular. And that's why I love it so much and why I just have to share it. I can't not. Okay, besides giving information today, the hope of a reading is recognition, to give recognition. So, Jeannie, you'll recognize as I share your design parts, it should bring relief. It should bring validation. It should bring clarity. Just like when you learn your dosha, or you learn and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's like a real aha, and that's what we hope, because then you can take it and experiment with it. Okay, good to keep going. Okay, all right. So we're going to cover your type, your strategy, which you already know, and your authority. All right. Your type is the way your energy is designed to flow through the world. Your strategy is how you best navigate opportunities and relationships. And your authority, which apparently you haven't yet experimented with, it's like the biggest superpower ever. It's your unique way of making decisions. And when I learned about that, that to me was like the cherry on top, the icing, because we've been taught, if you're aligned in your doshas and your chakras and in your Enneagram, we're coming from the most powerful place ever. We're coming from our truth. So when you go to make a decision, it should be, the most aligned decision, right? And it's true. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced it. Mm-hmm. I have, but yet there's always a little something that's like, maybe you could have gone the other way, or I don't know. Human design gives you an exact way how to make a decision. And some people's authority even tells them the right time to make the decision and then how to make the decision. And I just think that's like wicked cool. So I'm excited to share that with you today. If we have time, I also want to go into your profile. And your profile is the way you naturally engage with learning, growth, relationships, and life itself. Okay, how you engage. It's like your character archetype, your personality, how you be, in your story. Okay, and yours is very cool. And then if we have time, we'll do your incarnation cross, and that is your life's purpose. So human design gives you permission to stop being what you're not and to start being who you were meant to be. Okay.
I love that. Yeah, I came across human design because it was like, stop living from your conditioning and start living from your design. And I was like, oh, well, duh, I want to stop living from my conditioning, obviously. What am I here to do? So,
Exactly. And other systems, talk about it like peel the layers off, or you can picture pulling Velcro, off, right? And human design, the more you experiment with your design, the more you decondition. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's all about the experimentation. Okay. Now, what I've done though is human design, Kundalini, and Ayurveda really go together. So when I put them together, it's like if I'm doing a reading and they've never had a reading before ever, I will look at all their parts and I'll be able to say, oh, I have a Kriya that will work beautifully here. That will then help you experiment further with your design. That blew me away when I was able to, my dosha and my design are like this. And I was like, wow, this is really powerful. So I think everybody here would be excited about that as well, because we already know a lot, right? We already know those systems. So this is just a wonderful addition. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to get into it now. Jeannie. Okay, since you know your type, Jeannie's type is a projector. Now, there are 5 types in human design. You have the manifester, you have a generator, you have a manifesting generator, you have a projector, and a reflector. Now, we don't have time to go into everybody else's designs, so we're going to focus on projector, and that's what you are. Now, a projector is a guide. Gee, are you surprised, Jeannie?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Boy. Okay.
Okay. Um, but it's even bigger than the guide everybody thinks of you as, and we'll get to it in a second. Projectors are guides. They also are refiners, refiners of energy, refiners of systems, refiners of people. And I'll get to what that means also. One of your, I mean, you've got so many gifts, this projector. One of your gifts is to be able to see what others miss, to see what others can't see. It's not in their design to be able to do that, to be able to see. Okay. And I mean, that's gold when you put it together with being a guide, because if you can see what others can't see, then you're able to guide them from A to Z, where they're in the middle and they're like, why do I keep getting stuck? What, I'm missing the mark. Something's off. And you're able to go right through and see what that is, and then be able to help them reach what it is they want to reach. Okay. I don't want to digress too far. I get ahead of myself. It's so exciting. The other thing a projector does really, really well, and it's obvious why they have to be able to be good at this based on their energy. We're going to get to that. You are able to create efficiency without burning out, without exhausting yourself. Okay. And that's crucial when we start talking about how much energy you do have during a day. Okay. And how to use it efficiently. And you have that ability. Okay. So the first thing I want to acknowledge is the power of your presence. And this is really huge. You have what's called a penetrating aura, which means, again, you see right through all of us. You are a magnet. Just you and your presence, you're magnetizing. So we naturally come to you. And that's important when we get to your strategy. And that's why you know in your strategy, but you're not sure if you're really using it. You are. You are, because we come. And that's very important, because your strategy is to wait for an invitation. If you initiate, if you force, if you offer anything without being invited,
it's so bad.
You already know what happens.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Alisa, it's so bad. It's like, it, I mean, and I'm hearing you say this, and I'm like, this is one of the reasons why I feel so grateful that we have this community that we have. From a completely selfish perspective. I mean, there's many reasons to love this community, but from a selfish perspective, it's like how often in my life I have felt like I could see something, or I could, um, you know, I saw this path and these things that needed to be shifted or refined, to use the word that you used. And I would be like, okay, this is what we need to do. And people around me would be like, shut up, Jeannie. Like, we don't care what you have to say. So it's like, oh, like to be able to be in a space where it's not met, like my gift, and I'm gonna keep doing air quotes because it really hasn't felt like that most of my life. My gift is received in a way that isn't like, stop it, like you're too much.
Yes.
Like when you say penetrating aura, I'm like, yeah. And in a lot of times in my life, I have felt like too much, like even without saying anything, sometimes in spaces, like feeling like people think I'm too much. And I'm like, girl, I'm not doing anything over here. I'm just sitting over here. Like, why are you mad at me? So I just had to say that because, wow. Yeah.
It's so perfect because, and that's why when you combine your type with your strategy, once you know you have to wait to be invited, and I will go into what does invited mean. And again, when I was like researching this and doing this, and I had asked you, how is Jeannie, how is she being a projector and being so successful? Because I know how many hours you're only supposed to work in a day, and I'm trying to put all the parts together. But As long as you wait for that invitation and you set up, though, a system, a mechanism, the community. And I was like, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did she know design and then she created the community, or did the community come first and then she learned her design? Like, it doesn't matter in the end, but you set up a beautiful, efficient system so that people come to you. And as soon as they come, that's your invitation. That's one example. So like when I was researching yoga teacher training courses, I found Yoga Farm, and then I saw you on a video. I think Daniela was on a video. And the minute I was in your presence, it's through Zoom, it doesn't matter. We don't have to be in person. It's like, so I'm in. I'm already drawn in. And again, like you said, just from being you, because you have this magnetic aura. Now that really only works when you're aligned. Okay. Mm-hmm. It always exists, always. Your power and your magnetism exists. But if you're caught in, if you've worked too many hours in that day, we'll get to that. If you don't feel recognized or valued, your power will go down, and your not self theme. Each design has a not self theme and then a signature theme. Your not self theme is bitterness. And I don't know if you recognize that word, if you have a word that you recognize better, but whenever you become misaligned, imbalanced, out of your design, you are going to feel some kind of bitterness. Does that resonate?
Yeah, I experienced that a lot when I was teaching in public school, that like not being seen, not people not wanting to receive me in the way or whatever, and the structure of teaching public school, like they don't have any choice. They have to listen to me, right? Like that doesn't set up for like, and their children and teachers aren't valued the way that they could be. So I felt a lot of bitterness and uh like despair at times, like at the end of a work day. And again, I'm hearing you say like limited bandwidth, limited hours of working. Like that doesn't happen in public school teaching either. You're teaching a lot, you're working at home, it's a lot.
That's right. In fact, that probably more than the fact that, I mean, the students are sort of inviting you in, once they sit in their chairs and that they're like there, it's kind of an invitation, yet they've also kind of been forced to be there. It's like they have to go to school kind of thing. But you working 9 to 5 or more, because I know my sister's a teacher, she works forever. You take the homework home, you're doing projects at home, the whole thing. That right away would dim your magnetism and your power, and then the despair, and then the bitterness, and then it's a cycle. Yet you were in the right place in the sense of guiding and teaching and mentoring. And I'm sure in that you probably created efficient systems, maybe without even knowing it or recognizing that, so that things worked as high as they could, given the bureaucracy and given all the red tape and everything you have to work within. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so all right, so we delved into your strategy already. So when I was saying, so I came in, anybody who shows up for one of your Q&As when a new training is going to begin, that's an invitation, okay, also. If you put a post up on social media and say you asked a question, or even if you didn't, say someone responds to that and says, can you tell me more about that? Or what does that mean? That's an invitation. As long as you're not selling yourself, as long as you're not offering advice that wasn't asked for, giving an opinion without someone wanting it, asking for it. That's really the only place that you can't, share your insights. You have a lot of leeway. You have a lot. And again, you've set up this perfect Yoga Farm system where as long as you just, like you going to the studio in Ithaca, you're just there. You're just bringing yourself there. And they have come in. They've signed up. They're there. That's your invitation to share. Okay. When you set up like a workshop, you just throw out an advertisement about witches retreat in California, You just throw it up. And if people respond, that's your invitation. If nobody responds, fine. Then you're not going to push. You're not going to
Right.
force, right?
Mhm.
Right. And I bet even just because of your nature and your design, that I know that doesn't probably feel right to you. It doesn't feel good to you, right?
Yeah, it never feels good to push. Even it's interesting that you said Q&As because there are moments in Q&As where I mean in the past, not I mean, I'm the boss now, so I'm not yelling at myself about this, but there's moments in the past where it's like don't tell people in Q&As that they don't need a yoga certification. And I'm like, but they don't. Like I'm not selling something. Like I'm just going to answer questions and if it's right, then it's right. And there have been other jobs in my past too where I've gotten it's been a little sticky the way that I'm like not attached to getting people to sign up, say yes. In my early 20s, I sold like life insurance. Like literally, I was a salesman. Could you imagine? It was horrifying because I'm constantly just like I'm trying to get people to sign up for things and it was not successful. Um, so looking back, it's even interesting to see how quickly I conditioned myself out of the pushing because it wasn't met, like I didn't experience any sense of fulfillment or success. So like I can put it out there and if it's meant to be for someone, they will show up and I can't be attached or concerned with if that is true, for them or not.
Exactly. And what's interesting is we kind of teach that really to everybody. If you just show up, if you are authentic, if you are in love, if you are, coming from that powerful true self place, you really don't have to sell. But in your particular design, that you are not meant to go near that. Like that is going to boomerang back at you every time. And you don't need to because of your
Mhm.
aura. You don't need to. And because of your line 5 in your profile, which hopefully we'll get to after. Line 5
So
is
when you say line 5, Alisa, I'm a 3-5
pro.
projector. That's
Yeah,
what that means when I see the 3-5.
yes.
Okay.
Everybody's profile is made up of 2 numbers, and they come from the chart itself, which we're not showing here today, but it comes from their chart. And you can look at the line 3 by itself and then the line 5, and then you put it together and it makes up your profile.
Okay.
And
I was
you're
always like, what are these numbers? I don't know. I'm 3/5.
exactly,
3/5 projector. I don't
exactly.
know.
And it's funny because where the 5 is makes a difference versus if it was 5-3. And we'll get to that as well.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so the penetrating aura. I want to just get back to you being a guide for a minute because this is really big and powerful as well. You're not just a guide in one-on-one coaching or in like this yoga farm community. Believe it or not, you are meant to guide within your entire community, within society at large. And here's a big one, the world. You are projectors are meant to
Hmm.
be guides for the world. And I'm just going to throw this in, even though we can't get into it. According to how human design came down, by the year 2027, projectors will now be the main leaders of the world because of these gifts. No longer will the manifestors be the leaders. They're the ones that have been leading from God knows when until today. And I know everybody can feel a misaligned manifester. We see it every day now, and it's been going on forever, right? We won't get into that. But projectors are taking over the lead, and it's going to be very beautiful. It's like a great example of how this whole world is going to shift from a human design perspective. So I want you to realize your guidance goes beyond, and I know it does because I know about the social justice, and I know, you present yourself out there, you put yourself out there, and you are authentic and honest and verbal about your beliefs and what you want to share with the world. So you're meant to. It is your design. And I just think that's great. Now, another great thing about your being able to see through people, um, when you are seeing through somebody, they feel recognized. They feel heard. They feel understood. So it's really a win-win. I got goosebumps because if they feel that way, then they're letting you feel recognized and valued. So everybody is winning and actually becoming more of their true self.
Mm.
So that's really beautiful. Now, there is a flip side to that as well, because you have what some say in human design, a built-in BS meter. So you're able to see through people's masks and their conditioning, which may make some people feel uncomfortable. However, if they invited you in, it won't be. They'll be grateful because then you'll be able to use your gift of seeing what they can't see and being able to help them reach what it is they want to reach.
Alisa, can it change? Like, I feel like I'm just thinking of like, um, I'll use the example of like my first marriage, right? So initially it was like there was that, I think that he felt that I could see him and I could hold like that true self vision and he liked it up until a point and then he didn't like it anymore. It was like so like it was almost like that invitation or permission or like reciprocity was pulled back. Is that like am I making that up?
You're not making it up because, again, you've got it's it's just your presence that if somebody is masked, is heavily conditioned, which we all are, right? We're all working on that.
Mhm.
They're going to feel, they're going to feel discomfort. And if they're not working on themselves, that it's tough to be in your presence that way. Now, the other thing that's playing a role here is again your line 5. Your line 5 is a projected line, which means that people are going to project onto you. They see you as a savior. You in line 5 are a leader. You are a problem solver. Not only can you see the problem, you know the solutions. You see the solutions. So everybody is going to be magnetized to you, but you're going to have to be discerning. You will have
Mhm.
to have boundaries. You will have to, and this is where your authority comes in. Because if you're not sure if you should take someone on or not, you're going to ask your authority, and your authority is going to be able to tell you no. And not in a bad way. You guys just aren't a good fit. You can't solve everybody's problems. You can't
Mhm.
fix everybody's problems. You're not meant to. Number one, you don't have the energy for it.
Goodness.
Right? I know that's like way too big. And number two, um, yeah, you're just not meant to work with everybody. And it's just not a bad thing. So you've got to work on that. And that is one of the things you can refine within your own experiment. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes they're not throwing their expectations on you. It could be your expectations, and then you would look at that. Like, what do you want out of this? And, am I able to really help this person? Like, you have to know, am I dipping into something that I'm not really comfortable with, but I want to help and I want to do this anyway? That would be a little, that would end up putting you into bitterness and,
Mhm.
you'd be dimming your power and your magnetism. Does
Yeah.
that make
Yeah, I think that because apparently I can create efficiency and strategy, in the realm of whatever it is that I'm teaching or guiding, there's a time limit to it, like there's only so many weeks in a program. There's only so many sessions when I do private sessions with someone, and then we can like reevaluate, right? Are we going to continue? Is this going in the direction that we both would like it to go in? I just think that it's, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about how the more that I pay attention to the strong yeses, particularly with a program or a retreat topic, or, you know, the more that I pay attention to that, the more clearly the more clearly I think it is that the people who show up, I'm meant to be working with. And doesn't have to be anymore in the ways that 10 years ago it did have to be, where I was like, ooh, actually, let me refer you to somebody else. You know, like I don't have to, I had that mechanism and I still do. And my needing to like jump into that and refer people out is less than it used to be. I think mostly because I'm just presenting very clear like what it is that we're doing, you know, and not being like, what do you need us to do here? I'm like, no, this is what we're doing. Are you in or out?
And again, you're without probably even knowing it, you are waiting for the invitation. And if people are, coming in, especially in Yoga Farm, what people are coming here because, I mean, they all want to be the truth of who they are, and they all want to learn how to give that and serve others doing that. So you've got just this beautiful, group of people. The other thing that came to me as you were talking regarding when you asked about your first husband, when it comes to your design, you it it works at its highest. Not that it can't work at home, but it works more with strangers, like stronger with strangers than it does with family, acquaintances, friends. And it kind of makes sense because when we go home, everybody, we kind of all take for granted people. We expect things, why didn't you pick up the juice? Or, you get into that regular routine outside of, this beautiful community. And then they're not really inviting you in, it's a different kind of conversation. It's a different kind of energy and feeling. So then that's going to cause some friction, and if you worked past the amount of hours, if you did anything during the day that lowered and put you into a little bitterness, then, things can go awry. So that's another reason it might not have felt so aligned like maybe it could have in that situation.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move. And if you need to keep me on time, I can,
okay,
move it a little bit. But I do want to hit the hours because it's very important for you as a projector. So you're what's called a non-energy being. Now we have 5 energy types, but that's just the label, the type. Each one of us, each different design has a certain amount of energy they can work in a day efficiently. Okay, not that we can't go over it or maybe go a little bit lower and maybe make it up in days ahead or something like that. But you want to know what works best for you. So you can experience I don't think I've said it yet, your signature theme of success. Your signature theme is success. Everybody's got something different that happens to be yours. It's very cool. I know.
Who knew?
That's a great example where I'm like, I want that one.
Mm-hmm.
Is peace. And I'm like, well, peace is lovely, but I want Jeannie's.
I love peace. Peace is great. My Enneagram 9 loves that. Signature theme.
It's funny. Okay, so what does it mean to be a non-energy being? And reflectors are also non-energy beings. It means you don't have the capacity, your design doesn't have the capacity to consistently sustain energy. You don't have this motor. Generators, for anybody who ends up getting their chart, generators and manifesting generators can work from the minute they wake up until the minute their head hits the pillow. In fact, they're meant to expend all of their energy in the day, because if they don't, they then won't get a good night's sleep. And they then will experience their not self theme of whatever that is. So they can regenerate their own energy during the day. It's really a superpower. The world has been set up for everybody to be a generator, right? We're all supposed to do, work harder, have 10 jobs, you know. And meanwhile, most of us are not designed to be that way. Now, that doesn't mean you can't thrive. It doesn't mean you can't have great financial wealth and be abundant and prosperous. It means learn your design, work within the design, and you will thrive. You will thrive. So projectors are only supposed to work 2 to 4 hours a day, which you know this. Now, what that means is, and that could vary, some projectors maybe only can work 1 to 2 hours. Maybe they can work 5 hours. That's where the experimentation comes in, okay? Now, that means 2 to 4 hours of concentrated people-to-people energy work. So it could be one-on-one, it could be teaching spiritual warrior, community warrior, it could be going to the studio, retreats, workshops, anything where you're with other people's energy in a concentrated situation. Any more than that, you're going to burn out. Quickly. Okay. And then bitterness, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, because people are like, well, then what the hell do I do with the other 4 hours of the day? Right. What you end up doing in those other 4 hours, if that's what's left, that's a time for you to learn, PhD, or continuing ed credits for all the other things that you've got going on, right? Learning, refining programs you have, refining your energy, and rest. So I don't know if you've worked it out or not. I'm guessing you have, but rest is very important, a little bit each day. And if you end up doing a lot of one-on-ones, that takes a lot of energy, even more than sitting in a group on Zoom. And so afterwards, you're going to want to leave some space for recharging, resetting, resting, relaxing. Okay. So technically, in a full day, you're just doing it in a different way.
It's a different way. Yeah. And it's funny too, because I think sometimes like, you know, a real world example would be like someone wanted coaching today and it sounds silly to say. And so sometimes I just like don't fully divulge the information. I'm just like, oh, I can't. Because I'm like, well, I have spiritual warrior today. We're doing that panel for 2 hours, and then we're going to do this for an hour. And like, I could potentially show up and coach after this, but I'm not going to be like, I don't want to show up half-assed for somebody else. So like, I'm like, I can't today. So we have to look at a different day. Even though it doesn't seem like I'm back to back, you know, doing things all day long. I've reached my threshold of like this sort of scenario, and being in other people's energy field, and I want to only be at my peak if I'm going to be doing a session with someone. Yeah,
absolutely. And what I want to say also is there are 3 kinds of projectors. I'm not going to go into all 3, but the one you are, and it's based on your root center. You have what's called a defined root center, and I'm sorry for popping this in because we're not really talking about it, but it allows you to be, you have a energy, you're an energy projector. Now this can be dangerous because you've got a little bit more energy than a regular projector. So that allows you to go a little bit longer than someone else, but you have to be very careful because you could get carried away. You have an open sacral center, which means you don't know, and I have one too. We don't know when enough is enough. We don't know. And if you don't know who you're in front of. You could be coaching a generator. You could be teaching a spiritual warrior class, and everybody's generators and manifesting generators take up 70% of the population. So odds are you're in front of some kind of generator, and they're the ones that produce all the energy. And when we get in front of a generator, it's a gift in a way because we get to amplify their energy that we don't have, gives us more energy, allows us to go more, but then we don't know how to turn it off. Unless we know, oh God, I have just gone past and I've got to back out. I know I can't be in a lot of classes with a lot of people because I end up getting so excited, so happy that then I become like excess vata, then
Mhm.
off and I can't even sit still. Like I'm totally ungrounded. So you have to be very careful with that. But it does allow you to go a little bit extra.
Well, and this is what happens on retreats, right? So we go
Mhm.
on retreats, and retreat weeks are insanity. Like they're so fun and amazing because I'm around everybody else's energy. So I'm like, like I feel like Pac-Man. I'm just like, if I just keep being around other people's energies, then I can actually do this. And then we add in the element of like, I'm on retreat, I'm teaching in the morning, teaching a workshop, then I'm going back to my room, teaching online, going back out teaching again and like so I'm bouncing and what I recognize is like I can do that for a week and then I need a solid 3 to 4 days of like barely anything and the really funny part about it is like on that not knowing when enough is enough because of my open sacral center like I used to say, I say it still, but less now because I know that it's not good for me. But I used to say, I could do anything for 3 months. I could do anything for 3 months. I might end up in the hospital at the end of those 3 months, but I can, in fact, do anything for 3 months because there was just so much of my life that I was trying to keep up with the energy that is around me, trying to not like disappoint people that were like, well, let's go do this and let's go do this and let's go do this. Like we got back from scouting and it just so happened that we had an invitation to go check out another retreat center like 4 days later in Costa Rica. And like I sat there with that invitation of someone being like, can you get on a plane next week and fly down here and we can have a meeting? And I was like, I want to say yes. I want to say yes because who doesn't want to just get on a plane and fly to Costa Rica? Like, I'm insane to be like, oh, poor Jeannie, she's got to like suck it up and do this thing. Mom's getting on a plane and going to Costa Rica. But I had expended it all. Like, I knew that if I didn't significantly downshift over the last 4 days, um, oof, I would pay for it. I'd pay for it.
Yeah, you'd pay for it I mean, you'd be lowering your power, your magnetism. You could go into despair. You could go into that bitterness. Now, of course, life is wild, right? So many things come at us. So, yes, you could have done it easily. You'll get it done. But again, then because you know your design, you know your dosha, then you're going to have to make that time to rest and recharge. You know, um, we all can do anything, right? We can all push. We're good at that. I mean, that was my conditioning.
Yeah.
Go and go, go. And it's not my design either. So you just come back, you come back, remember, right? And be like, okay, I know what to do. And it's brilliant. How are we? Because then I can switch. I want to cover your authority because you haven't really done that and it's awesome.
Yeah.
You
So
have
we have 12 minutes.
12 minutes. Okay.
Let's get into authority, which I know enough to know is splenic.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay. That's all. I don't know what any of that means. I'm just like my spleen. Okay, great.
And it's funny, I've been kind of, looking at this and I'm like, well, where's the spleen? I kept, when I was talking to myself, I'm like, here. And I'm like, is the spleen here? Because if I go like this, it is. It's up here though. It's a little,
Yeah, a little higher.
yeah, a little higher and behind the left rib. Anyway, you have splenic authority. So splenic authority is rooted in instinct and survival. Instinct and survival. The spleen is the oldest center in the body graph chart in human design. It is designed to keep you safe and thriving in the present moment. Mm. Only in the present moment, which means all of your decision making is for the here and now, not future oriented thinking. Here. And then you can ask tomorrow. And then you can ask tomorrow, but you're not going to say, should I move in 5 weeks, or in 6 months? It's got to be, and actually you could, And it'll say yes, but you're going to have to keep asking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's instant. So it's all about instinct, intuition, and instant. 3 I's. You can remember it that way. Now, and this is so cool. It doesn't, your splenic authority, your decision making authority doesn't come from emotions, nothing about the heart. You're not going to go to the heart and be like, how does this feel? Does this decision feel right? No. What do I think about this decision? This doesn't make sense. This logically doesn't make sense. No, no thinking, no logic, no pro and con lists, no nothing, no mind, no heart, no emotions.
Nope.
It's the spleen. It's intuitive, instinctual now.
Yep.
Does that make sense? Have you kind of?
Yeah. And it's interesting because so in Enneagram, right, I'm a body type and the 891 is a body type. And I always thought that that was because I'm a body type. And I always thought like, oh, this is because I feel like not feel emote, feel sense. Yes. And oh man, much to Matt's chagrin too, because like, I mean, we came back, we went on a trip, we came back, this was a couple years ago, and I was like, we're moving, we're buying a house, probably within the next week. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just telling you what's going on. Like,
Yes, that's the perfect answer.
yeah.
Not when you get that kind of, it comes in, your spleen is doing its thing. It comes in urges, nudges,
Mm-hmm.
an absolute knowing, just a knowing, like, yes, this is it. It's like no explanation, no story,
Yep.
and sensations. You'll get like maybe an uneasy sensation where it's wrong, but logically it makes sense to do it. Like logic is going to say, no, you can do this. No, 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 no. You listen to that you go with that sensation. You might get an urge or a nudge to that where your body will move forward or your body will move back. And that's your answer. Yes, no.
Yeah.
You,
I get truth bumps, so I call them truth bumps because like immediately I'll feel it in my whole body. And when I have that experience, it just is a yes. Like it's full steam ahead.
beautiful. And that's
Hmm.
part of experimenting. You've done it without even knowing it. And that
Hmm.
learn. And because conditioning, logical thinking, conditioning, and external validation have quieted your spleen. Like if you didn't know about this, which means
Hmm.
you can't even hear it. You can't even feel it. You can't sense it. You can't because we're covered in goo.
Right.
And then the more you practice with little baby decisions, not the big ones like we're moving tomorrow, but, do I wear blue or black socks? Do I turn left or do I turn right? Which way do I go home today?
I love this so much because so like an issue is a very innocuous issue in my life. An innocuous issue in my life is my oldest child in particular, but all three of them did this. They would ask me like what is for dinner, but they would ask me like the day before. So we would get done with eating dinner and they'd be like, "So what are we eating for dinner tomorrow?" And I'm like, "You've got to be shitting me right now." We just finished eating. And I would immediately feel so annoyed and resisting this silly question from children. And even now, like, we will go to the store. We were at the store yesterday, and you're going up and down the aisles, you're picking things out, blah, 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 blah. And then this morning in bed, it's like, oh, what are we going to do at dinner tonight? And I'm like, ugh, can't I just decide that in the moment? And Matt will be like, and I will all of a sudden be like, you know what we need? We need guacamole. And he's like, why didn't we need guacamole 12 hours ago when we were in the store? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. And sometimes that like forced make this decision way ahead of time is like it feels like an impossible task.
Yeah.
It feels so impossible.
Yeah. And that's where it's great to once you know your design, whether other people in the family want to know their design or not, at least you can let them know how yours works, you
Hmm.
know, and then they'll understand better. And then you, and again, remember, being at home is a little tougher than being in yoga farm and doing your thing.
Hmm.
So, but at least then, you know, Matt will be like, oh, I forgot, you know, oh, that's right.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? And the other
Hmm.
thing that's cool, the spleen is all about health also. So if you go to if you say you want to buy a new supplement, but you're not sure whether it's good for you or not, you go to the store, you hold that supplement, and you just ask your spleen, and your spleen is going to know. You've got a defined spleen. That's why it's your authority. And it's brilliant that way. I don't. So my health, I can't do that. It's not going to tell me. And what makes it a little more challenging for me is that I will have to really keep an extra eye on my health because I'll push past. If I have something going on, no, I don't have time for that. I'm not going to the doctor, you know, screw that. You, though, the minute you feel something or something's up, you can ask, you will get the answer. And that's really cool. So you practice that one, experiment with that one, see what
Yeah,
happens.
that is really
It's
cool.
like food, you know, should I be eating, you know, even if it's like your favorite food, but for some reason it's coming up, ask if you should be eating that tonight. You know, you can check in. And so start experimenting with, you know, itty bitty kind of decision making. So then it becomes louder and louder and louder. And then it's boom, 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 boom. And it comes in handy again when you're trying to decide, you know, to who am I going, people who want to come in and they're inviting me in, but is it right? Ask the spleen, go to the
Hmm.
spleen, and you'll get that immediate answer. And if the answer is no, you go to it. I mean, you listen to it. And you'll know that as you practice and you'll find out why it said no, you know. But in the beginning, you won't know. You're just going to follow it.
Hmm.
Now, some readers say if you miss the mark, like if you've asked and the spleen gave you the answer, but you couldn't hear it, like you missed it for some reason, you were busy, somebody interrupted you, whatever. Some people say it's gone forever. It really isn't. It is gone forever in the instant moment, like that's gone. But what you'll do is, like, say the mind overrode it, something like that. But what you'll do is when you realign, when you get back into alignment, you can ask it again and then
Hmm.
it'll give you an aligned answer. So it's never really gone. It's just gone in that present moment.
Hmm. Very cool.
How much time do we have? Are we done?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much we're done. And yeah, I mean, I of course have so many questions, so I'm excited because I know that I can,
We
you know,
will. I will be glad to.
I can reach out.
Yes,
Um, and I
absolutely.
want everybody else to know that they can reach out to you too. So, go into the group and make sure that people have your email, and also maybe even your favorite link to where they can pull their quick chart if people are just like, I just don't know what I am, like what link would you provide people to find out what their type is,
Yes,
and then how to get in touch with you, because I mean, again, I received a fraction of this information years and years ago, and a lot of it felt at that time like I can't ask people to allow me to operate in this way that is so outside of the way that like culture operates. And so I did a little bit of experimenting with it and here and there, but kind of on the down low because I'm
sure.
like, I don't want people to think that oh well, Jeannie's living her projector self-design and being a giant pain in the ass and only having, 2 meetings a day. So I tried to like keep it under wraps and be like, oh, I'm super busy. I got other stuff to do. And the more that I know about this and the more that I can experiment with it, I have watched my life fall into alignment. And I've felt like my dharma, like my path is so much easier to follow and doesn't feel like such a guessing game. And like you said, this is when in alignment. So it also comes when I'm doing my practices, when I'm in the present moment, when I'm meditating, like, it all feeds in, and this piece of information I feel like is a gold mine for people to have, particularly if you feel a little bit wobbly on your path.
Exactly. And yeah, I'll put all of that in the group because they can go to my website and get a free download of their,
Yay.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
And I have to say to everybody, Jeannie is the blueprint success of a projector without even knowing it, believe it or not. You are. And I love that because whoever I guide moving forward that is a projector who they struggle. I've got friends and colleagues that are, and they're struggling. How do I get out of the regular work world and be, and you don't. You can thrive within if you understand your design and then you're able to move within it. Just like living according to your dosha. You know,
Yeah.
we learn how to do that and reach our highest selves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Oh
Alisa.
my
This
God.
was
Thank you.
amazing. Thank
This,
you, thank you, thank you. More to come. I can't
yes,
wait.
more to come.
Um,
Thank you.
and yeah, human design. And it does feel a little bit, just for those of you who are tuning in, like this is a little bit of a preview into the ways that Yoga Farm will be approaching a program that will launch in a little bit less than a year. So human design will be part of it. And hopefully in the next year's time, we all will get a little bit more brushed up on what human design is all about. So thank you so much.
Thank
I
you, everybody.
love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. See you soon.